And hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Not For Nothing. I am at my last night in fucking Southern California, which is, I will admit, I'm going to be happy to get home. But my last trip, or I should say my last stop, I honestly say had to be here because, I've known you forever, and I'm just going to have you introduce yourself because I'm pretty certain everybody's going to know who the fuck you are anyways, but
maybe
knock yourself out.
So hey, I'm Nikko Hurtado, and we're at Black Anchor. And, this is Not For Nothing with Joe Capobianco.
All right, cool. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm here at Black Anchor. This is the second location.
Yeah, this was originally Roman's shop,
right.
The artistic element. And so he had this for about 5 years. And then Roman owned this shop originally with his brother. And then he ended up selling it to me. He offered it like 3 years in a row, dude. He was like, hey, you want to buy the shop? You want to buy the shop? And then I never did it. And then 1 year he was just like, yeah, I just need to get rid of it. And there was like 11 dudes here, and they were just all waiting on walk-ins, and they weren't making the rent, they weren't making money. And so I ended up getting it from Roman, and it ended up being really great. Like, getting the shop, and it's been awesome just to have somewhere to tattoo down here in Los Angeles.
I was gonna ask, like, how much different is it being in LA versus, because you're from the fucking high desert, which is, it's like night and fucking day.
To be honest, I think at one time before COVID, I really wanted to move and be in Los Angeles 100%. After COVID, I actually really realized that I really love the desert and that I like the detachment. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, which is right over the hill, the Hollywood Hills.
Right.
And so my mom and my parents got divorced. And so I was about 12 years old. My mom moved to the desert because my grandparents were up there. And so I was always coming back and forth, going to my dad's in the valley, being in the desert. So this is like really natural, like drive and everything, and just being here half the time. But I will admit, I love Los Angeles. I love everything about it. It's just heart and soul. But I do like being able to detach myself and go to like the desert where there's nothing.
Yeah, well, I think I would imagine being in more like, it's not suburbia, because it really is kind of like you're out there, you know what I mean? Yeah. You're in a neighborhood, obviously.
It's becoming suburbia, they're building 1,800 homes right behind me.
Oh,
and
shit.
They leveled all this desert area. But I still like it, man, because, my son, he'll go mess around, he'll go skateboarding, he'll go to the skate park, and I feel good about it. Even though it's not perfect, it's still California, they're still dealing with those things. But it isn't the middle of Hollywood.
Right.
A lot of drugs, a lot of people, a lot of homeless.
That would be the thing that would, especially be, having a family. I mean, it's kind of fucking shit out there, man. Like, I spent a couple of days, I've been bouncing around a lot of this area of California, Southern California, without traffic, probably within an hour and a half of every
For sure.
place, And the nicest place I've been so far has been Dana Point.
For sure.
And because it really does remind me of, I guess it is, it's a surfside town.
Of course.
It's fucking gorgeous. Everything else has been real city-like.
Yeah.
I was just down in Torrance visiting Greg, and
Torrance is very much like that.
It's nice down there, but it is very much a city too, you know what I mean? So I think, like you said, I think the being in the desert, it's gonna afford you a lot more family life shit, you know what I mean?
And also opportunity, man. Like, I didn't graduate high school, so I didn't really have much option other than construction. And so then when I worked tattooing, I felt like I had to work twice as hard as like the person next to me that did all the right things, right? Like graduated high school, went and got a good job. They were able to buy a house because they could get a loan. It just took me more to like get the little bit that I got. And so buying a house up there offered me the opportunity to get it cheaper.
Right.
And it just, there was a lot more opportunity up there. I also got the building up there. I bought a building during COVID for the Black Anchor shop. And
that's what I want to touch on, that kind of stuff too, because so when you first started tattooing, and I'm not going to go into your history and your apprenticeship and all that stuff, because I think you've covered that in other publications and a million other fucking times. But I think a really important thing is, like, let's say, where did you start tattooing? Did you actually start in the Hesperia area?
Yeah, so I started at Art Junkies Tattoo in Hesperia, California. A buddy of mine, Mike, taught me how to tattoo, went to high school together. And I just learned there, and I actually found videos recently of it. The first 3 tattoos I ever did, and the first day I went into the shop.
It's nice being, like, especially your generation, like, we didn't have video of anything we did. Like, we had, like, you had photographs. You might have had a Polaroid on the day of, but you didn't have the opportunity to document the way you guys did.
You know what's crazy, man, is I don't know why I had a video camera, and I don't really remember. I just bought it, and I was filming, and I think I went in I had just gotten it. So when you're excited, I think I used it like 5 times, and those 5 videos were just tattooing.
And they're actually on. You actually managed to keep them and be able to do the thing.
Well, what happened recently is tattooing slowed down, and so it slowed down for everybody. And so I always like to try to take the time to do things I got to do. So I had a storage for 20 years, dude. I went and cleaned it out. And so I found a bunch of videos of just family, things like that. But I ended up getting those videos, and it was really cool. So it allowed me time to find these things.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then going back, technically, you opened up Black Anchor when?
So I didn't open Black Anchor till about, I think I was tattooing about, I don't know, I started in about 2001, 2002 in the beginning. It was like 2008, 9. So
it's not. And you were working, you were bouncing around.
Yeah, so
and you were always pretty much working out there. Did you ever work out?
I worked out here with Kat for a bit at High Voltage, and then I would tattoo at Art Junkies. But then once I got, I left that place, I ended up working for Ignition, which was with Jamie Sheen for a long time. I worked out of my house in between there for like 3 months.
Right.
And then that's when I worked at Ignition for 4 years, and then I opened Black Anchor. And that was always my goal, man. And really what it was is, anytime I would guest spot or work with these guys sometimes, and I don't know if you know this, but tattooers would always complain about owning shops. They'd be like, I want to fucking close this shop. I'm over it. I hate it. I hate dealing with tattooers.
It's an awful lot of work, and I won't say there's no rewards, because there obviously is. If you do it properly, if you take care of the people you work with, the fact of the matter is, they could be with you for a long, long fucking time. And the idea behind having somebody work with you for that amount of time, and to me, a shop's always the individuals that work in that shop. They make up the shop.
For sure.
Yeah,
and so I ended up opening the shop up because I was afraid that one day I would show up at the shop and it would be closed.
Oh, really?
Because they were always so negative about it, that clients would fly in, and this is at a time when I was extremely busy. It was right when I got on TV. And I remember the phones used to ring off the hook for this guy's shop. It wasn't even my shop.
Right.
And I was getting in trouble for that because it was too much. So it was
But how crazy is that? Because work's coming in. Were you working by percentage or rent?
Well, I think I was just rent. So the shop was amazing, and working for Jamie was amazing. I learned a lot. It's how I run my shops now. Real simple, nothing too crazy. But it was just more I was just afraid the shop would be closed, and it was just, I think it was a lot for a small business owner, small tattoo shop in the middle of nowhere to really handle and see, because the guy didn't really want to scale up. He didn't want to hire a bunch of tattooers. It was more hey, dude, you got to get your own phone number, because we can't even use the phone.
They can't deal, right?
And so it helped me, because then, Joanne started helping me with my appointments, and that helped us a lot. And so, it ended up working out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So the thing that surprised me was when you did open Black Anchor, that you did stay out in Hesperia.
Yeah.
Because to me, I looked at it from the perspective of you have this international clientele, you have this national clientele that's flying in to get tattooed by you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you're really making people come out to the fucking high desert.
I had a young daughter, Lucy, and so
it was kind of really.
It was a family thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was more just my family was up there, Joanne's family was up there, or is up there, and we needed help with my daughter.
Right.
And so Joanne's family helped a lot, and that's why we stayed there. So,
I think that's one of the things that makes a lot of families, for grandkids.
Yeah.
But there's also the idea of a support system with that family.
For sure.
And the idea that you have that I don't want to say it's a luxury, because it is, I guess. It is a luxury. It's kind of one hand wash the other. You get to see your grandkids. You just got to keep an eye on them.
Yeah. Help me out. Yeah. You don't got to.
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't got to deal with the bad times, but you can have the fun times.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
It was also too, I was traveling a lot, and that's how I met you.
Right.
So back then I was traveling a lot, and I didn't have the time to really scout a place in LA, because I did try.
Right.
But it was really difficult, man, because I was young, I didn't have that much experience, and just having to go to the city, having to find the buildings, having to find the codes for different cities, it was just, it was way overwhelming for me.
It's a bitch, dude.
Yeah.
Every shop that not that I have opened a lot of shops. We had I had color box when I moved up to New Hampshire with Corey Kruger.
Oh, yeah.
And that was pretty easy because it was pretty wild west back there.
Yeah.
When I moved to Connecticut and we were kind of forced to open up Hope, I didn't know the city, but it was the same thing. I was used to it. I've been around other people that have done it.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a pain in the ass, and you got to deal with health departments and the city codes and stuff like that. So it is a bitch. And again, if you're not married to that area, it's kind of pointless to do all
and I
that
didn't
shit.
have a ton of cash, so it was like I was on a budget, man. And I found a building, and it was fast. You know, it was like found the building, the lady gave me the lease, the city was easy, and so I opened Black Anchor in the first building I had, and that served its purpose. And it was an amazing time. Like, honestly, that was like the heyday of Black Anchor for me. I had a lot of amazing artists.
You had a lot of really good people come through the fucking door as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, who is some of the people that worked at? I mean, I know Carlos Rojas just left.
Yeah,
like,
and I mean, dude,
last year, right?
we're still close. Me and Carlos, you know, he just needed a change, and I get it. The world's crazy, and he had been with me so long. I'm super appreciative of him. You know, he's honestly, I couldn't have asked for a longer relationship to work with somebody.
Right.
I've had amazing artists, man. We've had Eric Taylor just came back. He left for 4 years. But
Oh,
I worked
shit.
with
I haven't
Eric.
heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, Eric's working with me again, and it's awesome, you know, because it's a brand new reset. He took off and did his thing. I'm sure you've had guys go and come, right? Like
No,
before?
I'll be completely honest with you, man. I've been really fortunate. Like, I've only had to let go 2 artists in the entire time we've been around. And I mean, shit, I've been working with Eric now for the shop's going to hit 20.
Meryl.
Yeah, the shop's going to be 22 in August, and then or October. And then I've been working with Eric ever since.
Yep.
Julio left
Yeah.
after being with us for 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, and then Timmy's been with us for 21 years.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Eric says he still talks to Timmy once in a while. He was telling me.
Oh yeah, see that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
probably through online. Like,
Oh, yeah,
Tim's
yeah.
got like a little he's got a bit of a because he's by him. He's a quiet guy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
for
he's
sure.
probably got an online presence.
For sure.
That he still stays in touch with.
I just think these guys met each other and just keep in touch and just
Well,
watch
I
each
think
other's
that's the
career.
joy. That's the beauty of fucking the internet. You know what I mean? From that perspective, there's
Yeah.
things about it I fucking hate. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of things about it that you can't help but say, yeah, that's a good thing. You
Well,
know?
the internet's become like almost like cable TV.
Oh yeah, to say that, it's laughable.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Fucking laughable.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, so when you move to the new look, and I'm going to touch on, because part of the reason I wanted to talk to you is more about, like, obviously the art, the television, all that shit, like, how much of an impact, I know it has a lot of impact as far as, like, regular clientele, when they see you on television, whether it be, LA Ink, and you did the guest spots on the first InkMaster series,
Yeah.
and now you're an actual fucking judge on
Yeah.
that. In the early days with LA Ink, people were attracted to you because of who you were, what you were doing, and kind of your clientele, I guess, because you were pretty fucking popular because of the style.
Yeah.
So now you get asked to be on LA Ink. How much of an impact did that have? Did you already have a pretty good, strong impact?
I mean,
on celebrity and stuff like that. I'm not celebrity on yourself, but the celebrities that were being attracted to you.
I mean, I was tattooing. I think I had tattooed like Fred Durst and like Brandon Boyd from Incubus, a few other musicians and stuff. So I had started right before the LA Ink stuff. But I mean, honestly, I got to give a lot of credit to Kat Von D because tattooing the most famous tattooer on the planet on her television show the first season, I mean, put me in a place that I could have never asked for. So like, I always like to give credit to that because I think in that time you couldn't really see what was given, but it was a very special thing in my career because she has a cult following, so that hardcore cult following.
She's probably out of, I would go as far as to say out of anybody, I mean, she's probably made it the biggest from that perspective because it was just like, I'd say from a tattooer standpoint, she's probably the most famous tattooer.
For sure, dude, and she's inspirational. I mean, she's done a lot of different things, and even to this day, I haven't talked to her in a while, but the last time I spoke to her, I always say thank you because it really was a pivotal point in my career that wasn't, I mean, her cult following became part of my following.
Right, exactly.
And so even to this day, a woman that I've tattooed, I did a Wonder Woman on, was a huge Cat fan, and I did a tattoo on her. She got tattooed by Rojas. And then the other day, she was getting tattooed by Hilmar that works with me in LA.
Oh, sweet.
At the LA shop. And so these clients have stayed around for a long time, and I'm super appreciative of it, So, yeah, I still see the results of it.
Oh, I think that's part of the that's part of the appeal of the TV thing. I mean, do you think, how much of an impact do you think anybody going on it? I mean, I think a lot of people are doing the TV thing. Like, I mean, shit, James Texter's won the last fucking season. I mean, to see him on that was kind of like, what? Like, how the fuck?
Mind blowing, dude.
Yeah, I was kind of freaked out about it, and I wonder how many kids are getting out there, and they're looking at it from the perspective of like, man, I want to be the next fucking Nikko. I want to be the next whatever. And I think, I mean, to me personally, I think I don't like TV.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and I've done TV. I've caught a lot of hell for it. Anytime I talk shit about it,
for sure,
I do catch hell for it. But I do think it's because I just find it to be very superficial. And having been on the other side of the camera, not the other side of the camera, but the other judging, I was judging. You know, there's a lot of bullshit that's involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, with tattoos and TV shows, the crazy perspective for me is really like these young kids, right? There's kids that are tattooing, like Caesar here in the shop. He's been tattooing 8 years. That guy's grown up with InkMaster being around his whole life.
Yeah,
which is kind of a crazy thought to me, because it was introduced to us, and then we got to see it just do its thing. We've got to see other tattoo TV shows come and go, right?
Right.
But these young kids, it's just TV shows exist, tattoo TV shows exist, and they aspire.
It's be kind of ingrained into them,
and they inspire. You do John Mesa, his show. He was on the show, you know, and you did his podcast. And I remember it was a crazy perspective, because I remember him saying, "I want to be like you, DJ," and it was like, wow, like these people really idolize the people on the show, and I think that's. I mean, that's cool as long as it's a good, you know, leadership and people are striving to be the best tattooers they can be and to provide their clients with good work.
Not trying to use it as like almost like a shortcut to get to point B. You know what I mean?
And we all know, man, like with art in general, like you start to sit people down and start to draw with people, and it separates where people are at. So like you can be the most famous tattooer on the planet, you can be whatever you want, but like artists respect artists, and you know the difference between somebody like James Text or somebody that doesn't have that experience, you know. And I don't see it bad either way. Like I think that there's necessity for these like influencer people that are doing like these videos and making this content or whatever, and they're tattooers and they're talking, making fun, whatever. There's that space for them, but there also is space for the people that are like craftsmen and, you know, illustrative and artists that are just want to make art and don't want to do that shit.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's the bitch of the world we live in now, because unless you're fucking, you could be the most talented individual in the world, a little bit of luck goes a long way
for sure
when it comes to discovery. Because I mean, I got friends that blow my fucking mind, but they're not good at social media things, so they have a hard time making that connection with clients. You know what I mean? Same thing with tattooers. I think for the amount of great tattooers that are out there, you know, I mean, a lot of guys are hurting because they're not able to break that boundary of like, you know, celebrity. You know what I mean? Like, or internet celebrity.
It's a hard line, you know, because it's like you have it's a hard line for like artists to really transition from an artist, like you're just making art in a tattoo shop doing your thing. Let's be honest, this is an amazing time. Like back in the day before the tattoo TV shows, the tattoo shops were lively, fucking around, having fun. But you know, it's all changed now, and we have to search on the internet. That's how we advertise, and it's hard when you're an artist and you've had it one way for so long, and then it's all changed, and you have these new tricks you have to learn, and it's faster and faster and faster. It went from, you know, MySpace, Instagram, and now you have TikTok and whatever else is. And
you have almost no time as an individual to really kind of catch up. I think the other big thing is
it's another job.
And well, it's another job, and it's also, I think it's also put a spotlight on individuals and how people do what they do. You know what I mean? The biggest issue I think I have with it is shops aren't the shops I came up with.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of artists out there, and this is something I've discussed with a lot of people. They look at it as, well, that's not necessarily a fucking bad thing, because the shops you came up in, people sucked. It was dangerous. It was this. It was that. Yeah. I always used the excuse that it was kind of a life lesson. You know what I mean? You knew who to talk to. You knew who to walk away from. You knew who you asked to leave the shop immediately. You know.
Yep.
And I think with social media, it's changing the scope of what people assume is a great shop.
For sure.
And
I mean,
where they should
100% on point. No, go sorry.
Oh no, and where they should be comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, it's true, man. I mean, there's a lot of shops popping up here and there, but I just think, man, great tattoos and word of mouth is what really, honestly, word of mouth is the most important thing we have. That's just the honest truth. I don't care how many followers you got. I don't care how much influence you have. It'll do you great, but really what creates longevity is word of mouth. Because those clients will come back, will send, I'm sure you've tattooed generations of people.
Yes,
right?
I have. I think the biggest issue that I've noticed in the last couple of years is the older you get as a tattooer, you hope those people are going to follow, that the kids are going to follow through with the parents did. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
I also feel location's got a lot to do with that, and how much of availability is given to them for other things.
For sure. I mean, it's true though too. Like when I got the shop here on Melrose, it was almost like 8 years ago now, or 8 years or 9, something like that, and it was a different atmosphere than it is today. And that's the thing. A decade will change where you're at.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you can't foresee that. So this was killer on walk-ins all the time. And since the economy, since all the things have happened here in Los Angeles, whatever, it's changed, and it's still great, but it's, we're going through the same things everyone else is. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, do you have somebody like a social media person that handles a lot of your shit, or are you still kind of doing it yourself?
So I do my Instagram, like my personal Instagram. I'm not the best on business and all that stuff. That stuff consumes you, and I'm kind of like a dog where if I'm on social media, it's like squirrel, and so you just keep looking through it instead of doing what you're supposed to do. You get sucked into that vortex of it. But my daughter actually is starting to tattoo. She is apprenticing. She's 18.
Awesome.
So she just turned 18, and I didn't even know she was interested in tattooing. She was just like, hey, Dad, I want to learn how to tattoo. And I was like, you're interested in this? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, you got to do this. And she was like, you got to do this. I gave her a sketchbook. It's the one thing I always do. When anybody asks me, I'm like, here's a sketchbook, fill it up. If you can fill it up, I don't care what's in it, notes, drawings, whatever. Just the discipline to fill it all the way, bring it to me, because I have to give it to you. And then you bring it to me, and then I'll say yes. And my brother did it when he apprenticed. Lucy did it, and so did this other kid, Coda, that I apprenticed. But they've all done it. So, yeah, I mean, she's doing social media for me right now. I'm paying her for the Black Anchor social media. She brings a different energy, which I think I need for my young kid.
I think that's that's a really good point to say, because I mean, my social media, I do my own. We have a shop owner I have a shop manager that does the shop's Instagram. But I agree. I think part of our problem with the shop, and nothing against for Tiff.
No, there's generation.
But she's
gaps.
older now, so it's like she's in her 40s now, and it's like
gaps.
It is one of those things that people aren't attracted to the same stuff that we're into.
And I see what she does. The music she picks, the way the content's made is completely different than what I would do, and so I've seen it work a little bit for us. And I also think that giving her this job, it's like her first real job, and I'm paying her weekly for it, because I think social media is really important to learn. And so it's me basically, Mr. Miyagi and her, like, this is what you're going to have to do,
right,
even if you don't want to do it,
right,
along with these other things that you have to do as well.
Well, I think getting her at that point where you can get her to simply be like, she can handle the stuff now, because it's going to be dribs and drabs of everything.
Yeah.
I would go as far as to say that the social media, learning the social media and the ins and outs of that today is like mopping, sweeping, cleaning needles.
Well, it's cleaning tubes. Tubes are gone, so the social media thing replaces it. Like, that should be a part of the apprenticeship, because how else do you sell yourself?
Right.
You have to sell yourself, and if you're awkward, you got to get through that boundary. You can't just give up. And unfortunately, younger kids coming in, even older people, whoever it is, have to do even this stuff. Like this is amazing, Joe. Like, your setup is badass, and this is content creation, and this is a great thing, because you're documenting your friends and history.
It was you're right, and it wasn't necessarily meant to. It was more for me.
Yeah, I like it.
Than it was for everybody else, because the idea of getting together with people, friends of mine that I can relate to, it was also trying to glean a little bit of energy from people, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of just inspiration, because it's so difficult now. And again, it could be a midlife crisis thing. I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 57 in September. You know what I mean? So it is one of those things you don't think about. It's like, fuck, shit's changing, man.
But the greatest thing, Joe, is, I'll be honest, like, out of most people that I even have conversations with, you are always the best to talk with, because you always have your perspective and view and your ethics and what you believe. And even if you play devil's advocate sometimes, you always get a good conversation going. Yeah. And so I think this is like perfect.
I'm trying. I mean, and here's the thing. I think that's something that I've been fortunate. I'll be honest with you. I think I've been incredibly fortunate that I've gotten away with my attitude and the way I interact with people, because I am, like you said, I am very blunt. I also am very, I'm polite in the sense that I'm not looking to start trouble. I will be bold-faced honest when the opportunity arises, but I'm not going to go out of my way to make trouble.
But dude, conversations we've had, like, it's always great because you don't hold back. Like, you're always really honest, and that's what we need in our industry, especially with these podcasts. The truth is, man, is like, who really is talking too much? I mean, we have Chats and Tats, we have Aaron Delavedova, which was amazing, and we have these younger kids doing it, right? Yeah, but there's not a lot of guys that are 56 doing it, which you're going to bring a whole different group of people that need to be seen.
I agree. I think it's a completely different landscape. I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of the some of the older generations. I mean, I don't want an apprentice. I've made that perfectly clear a lot. It's not something I'm interested in doing, and it's not because I think that there's a lot of tattooers out there. I don't feel the need to do it. We work in an environment where I don't think it's really incumbent to bring somebody into the business. I'd rather have them be able to deal with clients on a daily basis, and the shop's not that kind of shop. And in all honesty, I don't want the responsibility. I mean, it's a lot. I don't want to have to worry about going away for fucking 2 weeks and what's going to happen with the apprentice. And I don't want to put that weight and that responsibility on the guys that work with me, because the fact of the matter is, I mean, I think that it should take a shop. It's like a village raising a child.
For sure, it does take a shop.
It's an important. I think it's an important thing. So it's not something I've ever been interested in doing, and I appreciate when certain people do it. I get a little bent out of shape when other people do it, especially when they've had 9 apprentices, 10 apprentices. And
I never wanted one, man. Honestly, with my brother, it was out of necessity, and I told him, I was like, look, dude, I can't teach you how to be a mechanic, but at the very least, you could be a decent tattooer. And so that was me doing my best to help, raise him into the man he is. And then, with the other apprentice, Coda, this dude did not stop showing up, bro. Like, he showed up for years,
well,
bro.
But in all honesty,
for years.
I think that's incredible, because how many people just fucking make a phone call?
But he loves tattooing, bro. He loves tattooing. That guy will always bring up, like, hey, this guy, or, what is it like this? Or, and he knows everyone's name.
How long ago was that?
Well, he's been at the shop maybe like 4 or 5 years now. But, he just, what happened, it was when we changed the shop, so about 4 years. So when I got the new building, he had showed up so many times at the old building, and then he showed up at the new building. And we never told anybody we were there, so it was like, just fucking help us, because we were moving stuff and doing things, and he helped. So then it was like, okay, he eased in, and he's doing good, man. He does a lot of the smaller type of tattoos, but they're really clean. He's a solid tattooer.
I mean, there's something to be said for that. Not every tattooer should be this fucking prodigy, standalone. I mean, I personally think that's a really important thing, but I also understand the value of just doing really, really good fucking tattoos.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that may get you further than being a prodigy, than being somebody who only does, one style of work. I know it'll get you further.
Yeah, and with my daughter, man, I mean, honestly, I was blindsided by it, but I didn't realize how, like, inspired and impacted she was by tattooing. Right. And so I see it in her. When you meet her, you're going to see it, dude, because you see tattooer in her. She has that, like, energy, and she's like kind of that gypsy kind of soul where she just wants to travel. She's traveled a bunch with me already, and she wants to do good at tattooing.
I think that's admirable, man. When you take your brother on your wing, and your brother was super fucking talented. He
went further than I ever thought.
I was gonna say he made a good mark, not only on the tattoo community, but also on the fucking in the art world. You know what I mean?
Dude, his new paintings, the LA ones or the ones with the tape that I've seen, dude, they're so crazy. I've seen a few in person. It gives me chills because, I mean, I couldn't do it. I mean, I remember even showing Ami James the first season of InkMaster. I was like, check out my brother's paintings. And he's like, he's fucking better than you. And, I thought maybe he thought it was like a dig or something. But to be honest, it was like a compliment, dude, because it was like, well, dude, I never really knew what my brother had in him. And to see him go so far with his ability and even surpass things that I understand with that medium, blown away.
Well, I think that's the joy of bringing in somebody else and seeing what they can bring to the table, because and I think that's what people who are apprenticing people should be looking for. I think you should be looking for the raw drive, the energy that person can bring
for sure
to the business. And also, I think if they do have that creative spark, because like I said, I'm a firm believer in if you don't have necessarily the creative aspect, but you have that drive. Some of the best tattooers are nothing more than great tattooers.
For sure.
They don't need to stand out in a room. They just need to do what they do really, really well.
They're doing solid tattoos every day and just making people happy and doing the best for them.
Right. So getting off of that, let's get off of that and let's go a little bit more into you, because you've been doing this for so long, because you had such a unique style. You've been a pretty heavily sponsored artist over the years of your career. I mean, you did a lot. See, me personally, I'm not big in the sponsorship thing. We dealt with Pulse back in the day, but it was more out of a friendship thing, trying to help them get hooked up in the thing. But you were one of the guys that you had a shit ton going on.
I think it was a blessing and a curse, man, because I've seen what I did in the beginning. In the beginning, it was I was young, dude, 25, 26, when I really got to a point where people really were paying attention. I was given sponsorships, and I just took everything. And so for a long time, I did everything. I was like, oh, yes, just taking everything. And then I realized, I didn't want to do that anymore. And I got kind of stuck with a few companies. And now, dude, I don't do any of it. I had to get away from it all, and I had to make my own shit because
that's why I wanted to ask, man, how much of it had to do with the fact that you have to... I mean, my big thing is I want to know who I'm dealing with. I dealt with Bishop for a time because I was excited by what Franco was doing.
For sure.
But again, I wasn't sponsored. I was just being taken care of as a friend, and I was good with that, you know. But again, same thing with Electric Ink for that matter. I don't consider it a sponsorship. And Paulo made a point in saying, he's like, dude, as long as you use my stuff, it's yours. I don't care.
For sure.
But here's the thing, that I would proudly fucking spend money for it, and I've done that a lot. I buy machines from lots of people because I want to try everything. How much of that has to do, how much has it affected you or given you the idea of leaving something because of that? Because you get into these people that are their own characters. Some of them are fucking straight up fucking bottom feeders. They take advantage of the arts.
There's a lot of bullies in this industry, bro. Especially people that feel like they can do and say whatever they want to anyone.
Right.
And the crazy thing is it's crazy, man, because I know as an artist, that's why when guys use the stuff that I have, I understand, dude. I still want to try another machine. I still want to try someone else's ink.
Right.
BJ Betts just put out some Thermofax paper. I tried it. I'm not gonna just say no to things. I want to try people's stuff, try friends' stuff. Even there's this other stencil solution that's called Proton or something, and I tried it because I want to see what's out there.
Well,
dude.
I think also from the standpoint of the fact that you are a manufacturer of an actual stencil product, then you kind of need to have an idea of what other products coming down the pipe, just so that your stuff, I mean, you could say your stuff is the best, but then something all of a sudden comes out and it's better, and you go, whoa, what the fuck? We got to make some changes.
Most of the stuff was out of necessity, because the truth is, man, if I could have used stencil stuff, I would have. I was using deodorant and I was melting it still up till whenever I told everybody how to use it, and I try to use stencil stuff, and nothing against it, man. I don't know what it is today, and I know it was a great product, but I personally... it wasn't working for what I was doing.
Well, especially for the way that you guys work. I mean, you rely so heavily on that stencil going nowhere.
And so that was the thing. And so I just made a product that suited me. And it's, how it is. You order stuff like that. You have to order 3,000 bottles. It's not like you just order a little batch.
Oh no, so, you need to go full in.
And so that was a really great product, and I was proud of it and everything, and we still do it. I mean, I'm still proud of it, but all the other stuff, man, it's just me trying to get away from ownership, bro. And to be honest, Joe,
trying to get away from ownership?
Just people owning me. Owning what I want to do. Because put it this way, okay, I knew Franco, I knew Bishop, but I also knew Gaston. And I want to be able to try an FK Iron. I want to be able to try this other machine. Cheyenne's out there, Inkjecta. We know these people.
Right.
So it's we knew these people when they started. Yeah. Or when it was small.
Exactly.
And so I understand that it becomes big money. I understand that people want to make money, but at the same time, man, it's like there's enough room for everyone to breathe.
Well, and that's,
you know,
it's funny. That's why I always felt it was really important to more so support, tattoo-owned businesses. You know what I mean? I'm also a firm believer that if you're not a tattooer, maybe you shouldn't own a shop. But I also know that tattooers tend to be real big fuck-ups, and sometimes it takes somebody who doesn't do this to run a shop.
For sure.
And I think that's not a bad thing necessarily. I don't think it's great.
I think it's worse for the owner that doesn't tattoo because of where tattooing's at. Like, let's say we come across a time where, like right now with tattooing, where shops aren't busy and you have to rely on tattooers to make your money. Like, if you're a tattooer that owns a shop, at least you can sit down and make a tattoo and keep your business going.
And you can keep yourself going. I mean, that's a big thing. It's funny, I was just listening to another person's podcast, and they were talking about an old-time tattooer that used to put these fucking, like, deliberate, like, you need to drop this much money every fucking night. And if you didn't, and it didn't have to be your fault, you know what I mean? But if you didn't, there was hell to pay.
I mean, dude, there was a time in my business where I did feel like people should be bringing in at least a minimum a day. But, it's all changed and went out the window. I think that that time during COVID, one of my friends call it the many blessings of COVID, because there was a lot of bad, but there was some good things that came out. And I took my foot off the gas pedal of like the shops and people and just what I thought owning a shop was, what my idea was. And it wasn't really honestly the right way. So I'm a lot more relaxed now, and I actually have a lot more just patience with everything.
Oh, that's good for you, man, because I'm not patient. No? I'm not relaxed. It's like, I think with me, COVID, it really it really set the bar on just how quickly shit could hit the fan.
Oh yeah.
And it was difficult for everybody, obviously. You know what I mean? But I don't think it reset the things the way it didn't reset anything, because the fact of the matter is, immediately after they opened stuff up, there was a dozen shows in a month again. And I mean, that just, I think, shows the ignorance of fucking tattooers. I think it just shows the fact that we are so set in our fucking ways that even a pandemic's not going to change things. But I think it's also a matter of greed. I think that motherfuckers are going to make their fucking money, and they're not going to let.
I mean, we watched a lot of people come from nothing and make a lot of money and do well. You know what I mean? And we got to be grateful for that time, in tattooing. I just think it got kind of ugly. You know what I mean?
I think it got ugly, and I think it just got big. It just got too fucking big. And I think that, I don't know if there's going to be, I mean, everybody said the bubble is going to pop with the amount of shops that have happened. It hasn't happened. I mean, the bubble is still growing and growing and growing. I think the fact is, I think tattooers are just not going to allow it. But the problem being is, I don't know. I don't know where this. I don't know where.
Well, these big companies own most of tattooing now. I mean, a lot of these companies have been bought out by these corporation and investment groups, and so really, it's getting harder and harder for a tattooer like us to really, make a product and compete with, it's becoming like major corporate, you know?
And I think that's why it's important that tattooers, to a degree, do support tattoo-run businesses, but know what's really a tattoo-run establishment. I mean, the first time it happened, from what I remember, and I'm probably wrong on the thing, I think it was Eternal was one of the first companies to get bought out.
100%.
Or maybe even, it might not have been Eternal. I think it might have been Tatsol.
Or Kingpin?
It was one of those two. I think it was
Kingpin, maybe.
No, I think Kingpin went after. I think Tatsol was the first one. And if I'm not wrong, if I'm incorrect,
but they all own the same one, the same company.
Oh no, most certainly. But the thing is, I remember when Tatsol got bought out, everybody said, "Fuck it, I'm not buying Tatsol shit anyways. Who gives a fuck?" And I remember a lot of people saying that. But when it happened with Eternal, when it happened eventually with Bishop, when it happened with, I think there's only a handful of companies out there. Like, I think Mario Intense is still his product.
He's still solid.
You have Chroma, which is a much smaller thing. You have your company, which is also a much smaller thing. So I think that it would be nice if somebody could toe the fucking line. But I also do understand the difficulty of walking away from a multi-million-dollar.
I think anybody would sell. I think if you get that opportunity, it's going to happen. It's just, I think tattooing's at a pivotal point of major change, and we also got to think about tattooers, like, dude, supporting other tattooers, buying their shit, you know what I mean? Like, Jack Rudy just passed, right? And it's really fucked up, but, I remember at one of the Golden States, we were having, it was when you were there, and Jack had these flash, and it was like $700 or $600, and I bought it. And then I seen Jack at Musing one year, and he was sitting there, didn't seem busy, and I wasn't tattooing that day. I got tattooed by him, and I think this is an important thing to do. It's not, I wanted to get tattooed by him. I'm a fan of his work. Like, these are things I'm a fan of. It's not charity. It was just opportunity.
It does burn my ass that I never got tattooed by him. I've always been excited just to sit with people. I mean, when Stanley and Walter Moskowitz from Long Island, when I saw them at Philly, and they were doing the shows, everybody's like, "Can you get tattooed by Stanley Walter?" I'm like, "No, dude. I just had coffee with Stanley at the diner last night, and that was amazing."
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that was wasn't he the one with the ball peen hammer? You know what's crazy? I'll tell you a crazy story about him. I was at the Tried and True show in I don't know if you remember that a Steadfast brand had thrown in Florida.
Yeah, the first one or the second one?
It was either the first or second. I don't know. I went to the first one. I don't think I went to the second one. I went to both. I don't know.
I did the second one.
So the first one, right? Then it probably was. So Stanley was there, and it's so funny, these old school style of tattooers. But he comes up to my booth, right? And he has this, it's like a Jonesy, shaped frame. And he's like, "Hey, I made this machine for you." And he gives it to me. And I'm like, "Oh, sick." And I'm all stoked, right? Because I'm like this young tattooer and this older tattooer.
I know exactly where this
is going. And he's like, "It's $800. And I was like, "This motherfucker." You know what, though? I bought it, dude, and I have it, and I've never regretted it because, it's history, and I find it important to support these guys that we're standing on the shoulders of. Like, you may not be able to do it all the time, but when the opportunity rises, show some respect.
Dude, I would love to know how many of those machines he sold to someone who just walked up and asked.
Man, it didn't run very good, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I did tattoo with the machine, but it amazes me how, because he did the exact same thing to me. We were on the convention floor. He's like, "Oh, Joe, you gotta come up to the room. I want to show you these machines I've been building." And I literally went up to the room. He's showing me the machines. There's like 6 of them laid out, and I'm like, "Oh, this is fucking cool, Stanley." And they're janky, man.
Yeah.
And they're heavy, And he literally is like, "It's $800," and I'm like.
Yeah.
All right, man. And I
how do you tell him no, dude?
$800. So, but that's what I'm saying. I wonder how many people he actually was just kind of like just handing machines to and just taking the $800.
But that's the tattooer's hustle, though, and that's what I love about tattooing, and I think that's a lost art form. Because a lot of these younger kids came into tattooing, and this is not being negative. I just see it. They came into tattooing. It was super busy, and they just were able to sit here and then get the clients coming to them. But now it's time to hunt, and it's like, how do you hunt?
Well, I think that's part of the issue, and the funny thing is, I wonder how it's going to be taken with you having said it, and because when I say it, it's just everybody a fucking boomer, blah blah blah.
Well, dude, you know what I think? Just because even the perspective of my daughter, I told her, I said, "I'm happy you're coming in and tattooing at the point it is, because it seems like the bottom, and there's only one way up.
Right.
So you're gonna learn to hunt." And that's what I need for her to do, because it's not about sitting around and waiting. It's about figure out how you got to do this to get it. There's a way.
Yeah, I think that's what blows me away the most is the amount of people I've heard that have said that they're walking away from tattooing, and I look at it as walking away from the lottery. You know what I mean? And I understand right now, like you said, it's lean, and even as much as I bitch and complain, the fact of the matter is I ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I enjoy.
Yeah.
I love this business. I love everything about it. Even when I fucking hate it, I absolutely fucking adore it. You know what I mean?
You hate to love it.
No, well, it's not even a matter of hating to love it. It's
or you love to hate
it. That's just life. I mean, that's just dealing with life in general. But it does blow my mind is how many people do walk away, and I get a little angry when they come back. 6 months later, a year and a half later, when the climate's changed.
I mean, I do know tattooers that. It's weird because I do know tattooers that have stepped away to go do other careers, and then when their other career slows down, they jump back to tattooing. And these are great tattooers, and it's fine, they're doing it, I guess, but I just kind of take it like, damn, dude, you're so talented, you're so good, but you're just kind of using it as a backup. And
which, again, that's why it's hard. It's for someone who does this and has been doing it for as long as we have. You do kind of feel like someone's pissing in your pool, and it's like, dude, if you don't want to do this, go fuck off. Like, that's great. If you're a talented painter or you're whatever, do it, man. Knock yourself the fuck out. You should do that. You should put as much energy into that as you claim to be putting into this, and see where that gets.
But it's like, dude, if you're gonna just use it as like a hobby or just a side note or just when you absolutely need it because you know people are gonna get cheap tattoos, that's just not very good, man. That's not good business, and I think just let it go if you don't want to do it. If you don't love it like you love it, like it's something you really want to invest in, it's not really just to be a hobby, you know?
No, I agree. I think it's crazy. Getting on the machine, on the business side of things, like, so you started with the anchored.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, everything was out of necessity, man. Like, you know, I had a point where I was working with Bishop, and that went sideways. And so it was the question, okay, well, anything I use from this point, people are going to buy. And who do I work with?
Yeah.
Like, from this point, I just had a bad experience. It was weird. And, I mean, I'll say it like this. I'll always give credit where credit's due. I did get paid. It was good. It was a fair deal. It didn't work out. We had a falling out, whatever happened. But, you know, it's going to another company like Cheyenne or going to FK Irons or going to something like that, I knew people were going to buy it.
Because at that point, you're just entering the exact same scenario.
Yeah, and
it's
so,
just a different person at the lead.
And so we haven't sold a bunch of machines, man. Like, I think we've made 100 machines. We've sold some. I've given more out than anything. My dad had a stroke, so that hindered the movement on it because that's taken up a lot of my time and energy because it's just, you know, you're talking about a guy that has the same, like, as much as I got going on, but in his own life, and he's 70, and then has a stroke and can't, you know, function properly. So now it's just slowed down and really do the same thing with the ink company. Like, you know, I had an opportunity and Fusion wanted to get me to do more for them, and I had already done a lot, Joe. Like, I traveled the world with them first.
How many times because I mean we've seen Carlos do it, and I think you did it as well for a time, where they buy in instead of taking free gear. And this is where everybody's saying, like, hey man, don't do it for nothing. Don't take the gear just because they're giving it to you. They're giving you pennies. You know, for where they're making hundreds of dollars, you know, but because he bought into Inkies and stuff like that.
Well, exactly. And so actually Inkies had offered for me to be a part of that. But you know, the truth is like, it's not that I never liked the product or anything like that. It's just at that moment, I seen more value with Taurus just being a part of that. And it seemed like, almost like my hands were going to be tied of if I would have went into business with them.
So in other words, you kind of almost have like an obligation to stick with just that simple.
And I already had anchored, so it was like, wow, if I go this way, I already know I'm developing an ointment. I want to do these other things. I didn't want to get into anything that would tie my hands because, you know, man, as an artist or even the way I am, like, sometimes the wind blows this way and I go that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. I'm always kind of changing my direction, or sometimes I'm hitting it hard, or sometimes I disappear. Like, I know how I am, and so I didn't want to get into business with anything that I felt I didn't have control, because that's where I've been in the worst spots, is when I don't have control. And there's situations, dude, I'll even tell you a story. I won't name names, but there was a situation. I went to Australia, and one of my really good friends that I know down there was like, hey man, I was told by this guy that you're selling this product to our competitor, but we have a deal with them. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing that. And he was like, well, the guy told me not to say anything to you. And I'm like, okay, well, I never did that. I don't know what's going on. And there was always just like these weird things that I'd be a part of. And I'm like, it wasn't even my doing. So it was like, I don't want none of these situations. I don't want to be put in the middle or used as like some kind of pawn.
And this is why I think I am the way I am. And this is why I like to call bullshit in certain instances, because you trying to be polite, you trying not to be the bad guy, you trying not to name names, that basically turns things in. Because I know of people, suppliers and whatnot, that have used names that they really shouldn't have been, and say things that they really should have kept their fucking mouth shut about. And all of a sudden, you know, you don't know that that's happening, and you're trying to be the nice guy.
Well, you show up in Australia, bro, and then the person that brought you out there, you know, confronts you in the middle of the night when you're out, like, hanging out with everybody, and you're like, that never happened. That's not even true.
And then you're like,
and he knows it too. Like, he knew it too, because he was like, that's why I brought it to you, because I knew it too.
And that's why I think it makes more sense to just be more upfront about some. And when you see fucking bullshit, you call fucking bullshit.
Yeah, you know? Dude, and that's why I really like keep to myself. Like, I don't really go out anywhere or meet up. Like, I love the people I've met in tattooing. I have tons of friends, Torres, you, and there's tons of people. But I really recluse I'm like a recluse, because I don't want to get caught up in the drama or anything that could be skewed sideways. I'd rather, and I don't have much to say bad about anybody. Like, honestly, Joe, I've had an amazing career. I've been very lucky in tattooing. I fucking love it. I love tattooing, and I just want to do my best because of the position I'm in. And I remember a guy had told me, and I told it, I didn't think about it. Guy Atchison had told me when I was tattooing about 5 or 6 years. He was like, everybody's paying attention to you. You know, make sure to pay attention to what you're doing. Yeah. And I didn't, dude. I still did the same dumb shit every tattooer does. And then I realized with a tattooer that looked up to me that's really well known, told me I wanted to be like you. That's why he was doing stuff that I was doing. Well,
and that's a big fucking deal. And again, that's why I think it's better to be an individual and know where things are. I mean, dude, I know so many people in this business that are just absolute fucking douchebags, and I don't appreciate them. I don't really have much to do with them, but I continue to see them getting around and doing these certain things, and it's aggravating. I don't let it get to me because I really don't. I mean, I can't give that much of a shit, to be honest with you.
No, for sure.
But I think that's one of the things. I think there should be more people to call shit out, and it bums me out. Like I said, I don't want to see anybody lose their business. But I think that's a lot of individuals and certain companies need to be checked.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, dude, it just, I just want to. I guess that what happened with that, with being like, you know, when Guy told me that, I realize now, and a while ago when I stopped really drinking and stuff and partying or even being out, that people were paying attention, and there were people that I was maybe not influencing in the positive ways. So now where I'm at is like, dude, save your money. You make good money, save your money. Like, there's always going to be a rainy day. Be aware of your surroundings. Like, party, hang out, have your friends, but do it in social events where you can trust people. Like, I'd have a beer with you, Joe, because you're my friend. Yeah. I don't want to have a beer with you with a bunch of strangers anymore. Well, I mean, that's just not how I feel.
I mean, we both came up in tattoo conventions, and I mean, I think my biggest,
there was a code, I think, too, unspoken code. I don't, you could have a good time.
Yes and no, but there's been times, dude, and no offense, and there are people we know where I've had to walk away from situations because I don't agree with the shit that I'm seeing. Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, you can call it code. My code is going to be, I'm fucking out.
Well, I'm not saying anything wrong. But but you've always been good like that, though. You've always been like.
Yeah. But here's where I'm bad is, if I happen to be in a situation where it's a couple of us talking and something comes up, I'll be the first one to be like, that fucking guy, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to get into it because there's a lot of those stories. But it's one of those things. And that's where I think people are just like, well, you're a fucking shit talker. I'm like, it's only shit talking if it ain't fucking right. If it ain't true. And again, I get it. Not everybody wants to be fucking called out or whatever, but sometimes it's like, hey, you're going to get involved with that guy? Yeah, you may want to think twice.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of a big deal.
I just let people do it now. You know, I've had people bring it to me and ask me about these guys or people or businesses, and it's like, do what you want, get your money. If you can get money and you trust them and they're going to treat you right. I mean, I will say, man, Fusion did pay me. They paid me, every year, and it always stayed the same. Moving on from Fusion, because I didn't get to button that up, Adam Everett and me were good friends. We're still friends.
Right. He's got Sacred now, right? Yeah,
he got Sacred Ink, and he's doing his thing, and I still support him. I still talk to him. Like, the guy is an amazing guy. He always treated me well. We've had bumps in the roads, but,
I think that's Adam in a nutshell, though. I mean, I've heard so many fucking crazy stories. And again, he's been.
But he's been in this for how long?
Well, that's just it. He had a turn. He was with Tramp with Eternal before. When I met him first, that was up in New Hampshire. That was even before. That was probably, that had to be at least 3 years before Eternal. For sure. And I remember meeting him, being like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Yeah. And he's talking all this shit and thick fucking country accent. And I'm just like, dude, whatever. I'm good. But again, and look what he became.
Well, he's made some big companies. He's had his hand in a lot of the big companies in tattooing.
Eternal, Fusion.
And now it's Sacred Ink. And, but yeah, dude, I mean, Fusion, it's just the same thing, right? Adam left, everything changed for me because I think I was his good friend and I was still working with the company. And it was at that point too, because where I was thinking about going was, honestly, I was thinking about going with Intense because Adam didn't have Sacred.
Right.
So there was that point, but COVID was shut down. I had saved my money, and I had, because you know how Ink is, bro. Like, Ink's one of those things that's like very secretive, and at the time there was a small group of people that knew it.
Yeah, and well, that's also the problem with the fact that it's being produced by individuals. They're not rocket fucking scientists. You know,
I mean, dude,
that's kind of a big deal.
It's true. It's true. This is true. You know, and so the thing is like the machine thing was throwing the sense off on the public to anyone that was thinking about what I was doing, because I really was focusing on the pigment because it was a big investment, man. It's like,
oh, I could just imagine how
dude,
much.
What Anchored really helped me get it going, you know? Yeah, but nah, dude, I mean, it's like, you know, yeah, so the ink thing was really the thing I was focused the most on, because I really thought like, okay, well, if I'm leaving Fusion, I don't want to go get in bed with another company that it's just going to end up exactly the same. And then I think, well, what if there's a point where nobody fucking cares about what I'm doing at all? I need to try to figure out how to make this last and be a part of tattooing.
Well, you need to look out for yourself.
It was just diversifying.
I think that's one of those situations where you just, I mean, I think we're all just bouncing around trying to figure out what we can do as a secondary revenue stream, and it's like, it's easier for some, you know what I mean? Especially someone like you, I would imagine finding yourself in a position where, you know, you've got decades behind you now of being an amazing tattooer and a well-known international tattooer. You've got, you know, people who trust the things that come out of your mouth because they see what your stuff looks like years down the line. So you've got that to back it. You know what I mean? And then you, on top of that, you bring in the TV and that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's an important thing to have. And it's like, whenever you support somebody, it is kind of like a NASCAR thing where motherfuckers should start getting paid, because you using it could literally catapult that business into the next fucking level,
at one time it was like that, dude. It was like people would buy the shit I was using like crazy, you know, and that's why I did it too, man. It was like trying to figure this out, and I really didn't want to do the business, dude. I'm not a good business person.
Do you think you missed your window on your pigment? Because like you said, everything's very slow. It's a very slow start. The machines are very slow. And again, it's not a shot, but it is one of those things.
No, I don't think I missed the window, because honestly, Joe, my number one thing is tattooing and my art. And so, you know how it is. You become a better business person. You get pulled in different directions. I make the products for me and we share them, and it's good enough for me to use. So I'm happy with it. It's on level with everything else that's out there. There might be some technology that's further with like machines, but honestly, dude, a rotary, a direct drive, it's just simple. So these things were just things to make to help my dad out. Like, my dad was getting older and I seen him withering away. Yeah. So I was like, let's make this product.
Well, dude, the fact is, if you were a coil maker, I mean, if you still use coils, I mean, how many people literally just decided to put out? I mean, shit. I had mine manufactured through Electric Ink when I used coils.
I remember.
And dude, for me, it was just something really cool. I like the aesthetic of certain machines, so I wanted to have my name on that.
And
machine.
You might not make it forever, dude. It's like, that's the thing. Is like, I'm not trying to be Cheyenne, bro. I'm not trying to be eternal. Like, I think they're great companies, and dude, yeah, if they're killing it, like they're the biggest companies in tattooing, good for them. You know, I just want to do things for me, and then I share them, and if people like them, cool, you know, and if they don't, cool too. Like, I think
leaving your mark in the business is not a bad thing. I mean, the idea that we create art and that's something we leave behind. You know, for decades I did, or for, you know, the better part of my career, I created Flash. And that was hanging. I love when people are just like, dude, the shop I came up in had all your Flash hanging in it. Someone will reach out to me and be like, dude, and they'll send me a picture of my Flash in one of their Flash racks. I mean, there's something to be said for that, dude. It's kind of nice that you had a slight, you left your mark here. You know what I mean? I think that's an important thing. It's not just about tattooing and leaving these indelible marks on individuals, but it's also the things that you do to help bring the business along.
For sure.
I mean, that's an important thing. And I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think everybody needs to do it.
Yeah.
But if you can do it, you should fucking do it.
Yeah, it was just opportunity meets preparation and time, because, you know, when you have also, like, I worked 15, 18, 19 years, and I really didn't do much to purchase crazy shit.
Right.
I was like, dude, where am I going to invest this? And so sitting on my hands with the businesses shut down during COVID was like, well, fuck, I got to make a move. And so this was the whole point, was like, well, let's try this pigment thing. I'm going to figure this out. I know how to make it. Let's go. Let's try to get this going. And that really was the catalyst, was just like taking a risk, bro.
And again, I think the best sales pitch is the fact that you're using it on a daily basis. I mean, that's
dude,
a big deal.
I'm going to tell you like this. I tattoo with my machines. I tattoo with all my products every day. And all my work is with that. And even if my work is hindered at all, I'm not going to lie to people and use this other stuff. Like, that's all I'm doing,
Exactly.
you know? And I just want to make good shit for me.
We had a supply company out of the shop for a time, and it's just other other people's gear reselling.
Yeah.
You know, it was electric ink tubes, needles. You know, some of their machines. I had it was all electric ink line. I mean, it was everything in the shop that everybody in my shop used,
Yeah.
and anybody who came in. We started getting people like, so when are you gonna start carrying Eternal? When are you gonna start doing this? I was like, well, never. Why?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's what I use. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm going to tell you right now that everything that is in this store is being used by everybody in this shop. Now, you can go to anybody's fucking room and you can watch them work and you can see their tattoos.
Yep.
I can show you tattoos I did with electric ink, with electric inks, Easy Glows from fucking 8 years ago, and they look fucking amazing. So the fact of the matter is, I'm showing you how good this stuff is by using it every fucking day. And that's all I'm going to sell. And unfortunately, just a matter, it didn't work.
It's definitely waters to navigate. But I will say this, like, tattooing has taken care of so many people in my family that I just owe it a lot. And really, like, even the ink company, like my cousin Dan, he does all the day-to-day, and he does the mixing, he does all the pigment, he bottles everything. And it's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, it helps him out and he makes a good living, and he's able to, learn something new that's badass. And I think it gave him a different perspective on his life, because it's like he has something unique that most people don't. You know what I mean?
I think that's great. I think that's what tattoo does for a lot of people. I think that's anybody who's affected by it. I mean, when Nicole came to work for me, it changed. Not for nothing. I could say it probably changed her life. The girl Tiff that works for me now, she runs my shop. You know what I mean? She is an indelible part of that shop. I could not run that place without her.
I mean, Nicole did great for me, man. It was really the beginning of like me doing most of the personal stuff with my website and stuff, shirts and things like this, and it was a great time, So I definitely have had some good experiences with some good people around me to
I think the tattooers have a tendency to take a lot for granted.
Yeah.
That's probably the one thing I think that I find most aggravating with a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
Is the fact that they do that a lot. They take a lot of things and people for granted, and it does suck. But that's tattooers, I think.
I mean, and you learn once it's gone. You know what I mean? Like the value of that person, and it's good. Like I think to be honest with you, man, all this shit with business and money and the world, like I think a lot of us get so lost in it because it's what we're fed all the time. But really, honestly, I would never want to hear, even my enemies, dude, even people I used to like and don't like now, I just wouldn't ever want to hear that they were in a bad position. I don't wish. Yeah. And so I just think, like, dude, life is good. Like, I like my day-to-day tattoo, go home, and if I'm busy, I'm stoked, and I try not to get too lost in not being grateful. Being grateful. Try to be grateful.
So let's talk some shit about fucking television.
Yeah, let's talk
not
shit.
for nothing, dude. Yeah. You're on a whole nother level with that shit. Like,
it's kind of. I mean,
the fact that it's fun to see DJ go from being a second guy, the runner up on the show that I did with him. And then now he's fucking judging. He won InkMaster like fucking
3 times, dude. I mean, shit. Like the guy. I mean, InkMaster's cool, man. It's been a crazy experience. I definitely have grown from it. It's applied a lot of pressure in different ways that I never really thought. And so, like, put it this way. So, like, last year, right before I went in, I took a dragon drawing class from Bill Canales. And it's not because I don't want to learn how to draw dragons. Like, sure, if I sit there, I can draw a dragon. But I also feel the duty and need to continue learning in the journey. If I'm going to sit up there and talk some shit, Joe, and judge these people's tattoos...
You should have a background knowledge of it. Because I think that was the issue with with Nunez and Oliver being on there, because Oliver does traditional tattoos, and you can't take a goddamn thing away from him. Nunez does what Nunez does, you know what I mean? And then you got, what's his name, Dave Navarro up there, who really is just a fucking, nothing against him. He's an amazing musician, obviously. But as tattooers, and I know it's not geared towards tattooers, it's geared towards the fans of tattooing, but we look at it, and dude, I can imagine just being a contestant on those shows having nothing but contempt for that judges panel. So.
Of course. And so that's the thing is, like, I want to pay respect. Like, if you do dragons, you do Japanese. It's not my forte. I would never say I'm a master or I have all the knowledge on it, but I will do my best to understand it or talk to people that I know that do this work, or even take a class from somebody to learn more about tattooing, because I feel that's my job. They hired me to do something, and so my job is to represent us the best we can, but also try to learn as much as I can about it to understand the work that goes into something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So right now, before you came, like, my daughter's apprenticing, so Hilmar that I work with is taking these amazing classes online, and so I told my daughter, look, tattooing is more than just tattooing. It's art. It's all these other things. And so we both signed up for some intro to drawing classes. And I just did it right before you got here. I'm taking an anatomy class right now to learn more about the figure, more about anatomy. And that's my journey before this, if I do get another season. And I just want to continue the growth. And it's because illustrators, right? So like James Tech's an illustrator.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they don't respect me because I'm a copier of portraits. So it's like, okay, well, I got to learn how to illustrate better.
Well, what the funny thing about that is, I've been of the opinion that, and that's why while I have a little bit of contempt for musicians being on the judges panel, whatever.
For sure.
But the fact of the matter is, man, most people can check out a good tattoo.
Yeah.
And they can decide what they like.
Sometimes it's good. Joel actually was in the shop the other day. I'd seen him. But one thing that I will say about Joel that's awesome is he really does love tattooing, and he really likes it. And, he's really knowledgeable with art because he collects a lot of it. And that guy has done a lot with his own personal art, like as far as like being in a band and, taking it as far as he can.
Again, they're artists in what they do. Yeah.
But he also speaks for the person that's the average person that doesn't do tattooing.
And again, I think that's part of it. And the fact that they're up there with 3 tattooers that can basically, dude, when we did the show, we had Sabina, and Sabina's pretty much just doing what the judge and with the production is telling her.
Yeah.
But we're also being like, here's why that tattoo fucking blows,
Yeah, I just know what I do there. The other jobs of the other judges, I have no idea. I just know, like, my answers are always 100% honest.
Right.
I'm always keep my integrity for tattooing. I'm super grateful to be on that show because even during this crazy time, I'm able to do that. It's hard to get away from leaving for 6 weeks because it's in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But it's been a great experience, and like I said, it hasn't been easy for me, Joe, because it's like it's still like you have imposter syndrome. You still have a lot of pressure on you. You're having to talk to these tattooers, and we're those tattooers. Like, we're those guys that are trying to do our best,
exactly.
And we're trying to give our love.
Yeah, at a time. Yeah, exactly. At a time, it's difficult to you try to put yourselves in their shoes. When I did the show, I was just kind of like, if it were me telling. Or if it was them telling me this, I'd just be like, "Hey, do me a favor, go fuck yourself."
Well, that's why Roman left, right? Because he left when he was on your show, right?
But it's a shame. I think the problem with what happened with Roman was I think he smelled blood in the water and he realized it was his own. And I think that was a major, dude. That's a huge hit to your fucking ego, especially when you were the shit coming in, and he was the one with the most experience on the show. And
dude, it's hard. Being a great tattooer on these competitive TV shows is about rising to the occasion. Like, if you fold under pressure, this probably isn't going to be the place for you to do your best work.
So I haven't seen an episode in a really long time. I haven't seen it since season 3. When I stopped doing the shows, I was so turned off by the way production handled certain things and how the crew was handled and stuff, or the tattooers were handled. So I was really kind of disillusioned by the whole. Not even disillusioned. I knew it was a joke, but I was like, I didn't realize how bad it was. And what I think the thing that freaks me out the most is how much they try to, steer the course a little bit. You know what I mean? And how much is that of that? And I don't know if you could really talk about it, but how much of that is really?
I think in the end, it's a TV show. They're making a TV show, and it needs to be entertaining. I think.
How many people are being kept on board because they know they're a drama queen, they know they're a shit talker?
To be honest, that's above my pay grade, man. I wouldn't know what they're doing because I'm a tattooer, bro.
So you're not seeing any of the actual interaction with the artist they're having during filming?
No, like...
See, that was the thing. I was there every fucking day.
I'm pretty much in the back dressing room until they call us up to either judge or look at, walk through. And so we don't interact with any of the artists. Like, I don't know any of them.
They don't have you guys walk into the rooms anymore?
Yeah, and we talk with them like that, but, like, you can't talk about anything right there. Like, you're just like, hey, what's up with the tattoo? And, you kind of bullshit with them. And
that's what kind of killed me with our show. Because, I mean, I would have been fine sitting in the fucking room all day long just walking around. And I said that. I was like, dude, just let me fucking hang around with these guys. And they were just like, no, we can't have a camera on every single fucking moment of the day.
You have a lot of energy. They need the cameras.
We need that fucking...
Well, they only get a certain amount of cameers, too. So, like, they can't follow you all day because they need the camera for something else. You know what I mean? But I don't really know, man. I mean, I think in the end, it's entertainment, and they're making a show, and it's competitive. So there's a lot of, like, twists and turns. I do believe, like, even the last season was the first season that the person I voted for won. And I think even beyond the show, James deserved it. I think James...
dude, it was funny because I ran into some friends from Canada, and I'm like, well, we know who won.
Yeah,
and everybody's just kind of, like, laughing. And I'm like, dude, if he had lost...
Yeah.
Like, unless he had, like, unless somebody assassinated him on the fucking show, you had to know that motherfucker was going to... I mean, he's probably one of the most talented people in the industry right now.
He's amazing.
I mean? So, and I totally dig his work. But, like, so you're enjoying it. You're not completely turned off.
No, I mean, it's definitely a new experience, and it's something that I've never done. And I just, I try to do my best. So, like, I don't drink, but I'll smoke weed. You know what I mean? But when I go to Vancouver, it's legal and everything, but I don't smoke weed at all. Like, I'm totally...
You try to be...
I'm disciplined.
You're being very respectful for...
And it's for the tattooers.
For the job that you're
It's for the tattooers.
Yeah.
Because, in my opinion, I think about if I was them, I want somebody that shows up with their A game. I want somebody that shows up with unbiased. Somebody that is going to give me the best, honest, whatever that they can. And so it's really for the tattooing, man.
Well, it's funny. I remember when we did our show, like, the first season, like, by the third or fourth episode, people were like, we're for the camera, you're looking at this lame fucking photograph on a TV screen from across the room, and the fucking artists are losing their shit because they're just like, oh my god, but that does not look like that. And literally at one point, I'm like, I just stopped.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, here's the deal.
Yeah.
Last night when you all left and you do your fucking off-camera stuff, I'm staying here till fucking 12:30 in the morning with the rest of the crew, cleaning your tattoos under a fucking light, and I'm looking at every little fucking thing like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you cannot believe me or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, I didn't get back to my fucking room till 1 o'clock in the fucking morning, and I'm back here at 7 fucking a.m. seeing the same fucking client.
We go and look. We see. I mean, I go and see every tattoo finished that I could. You know what I mean? There's some times that that you're not able to, but that's very rare.
I'm sure
maybe like once a season.
I'm sure the photos are a lot. Like the whatever they're documenting the stuff is a lot better than what we did.
Oh yeah,
because these guys didn't even know. The photographers didn't even know to take a photo of a tattoo.
Yeah, no, they really have it down to a science. The woman Andrea that runs the show, she really pushes, man. And honestly, I'm really impressed on how many people work extra hard to create this show, because I've been on other shows like LA Ink, and they're 5 o'clock, everyone's done, and they need to get out of there. With this, people do go the extra time, the extra mile.
It did blow my mind for how some of the hours they put on these shows.
Yeah, dude, from the sound people to the video people to the showrunner to even the artist and the judges, man. Like, everybody is putting.
So how 100%. Much? If you had to make some kind of a comparison, how much different is it from filming LA Ink back in the day?
Well,
being on the side of actually holding a machine.
Yeah, it's completely different. I mean, there's a lot of stress, man. I mean, a competition's completely different than tattooing for like a reality TV show where you're tattooing somebody's passed away family member. Right. It's a completely different type of thing. I mean, the pressure's still there because it's on TV and it's for the world, but definitely not the pressure of like, I gotta beat this dude. You know what I mean?
Well, and again,
or
because,
this woman.
and again, a
whoever.
lot of people are watching, and I think bringing people like as the seasons progressed, it seemed like they were getting bigger and bigger names.
Oh, yeah.
But again, it was also like being in the field, being in the business, seeing the names they're bringing in. It's like, okay, that guy's gonna win. Like when Josh Payne was on it, I was just like, okay, we know Josh won.
Yeah, he's a monster, dude.
Oh, dude, he's phenomenal at that too.
The crazy thing is I knew his work, but like I hadn't seen it in so long. And then,
well, it's funny too, man, considering the fact that he was on television, he did all that shit. From a social media standpoint, he just kind of disappeared.
Dude.
From my understanding, he's back in New York again.
Yeah,
I just talked to him recently.
I talked to him too recently, and he
Nice.
said that when he was moving. But dude, his artwork, his tattoos and artwork, and his digital stuff is incredible.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
He's just a phenomenal all around good tattooer, good artist.
I will say with InkMaster, man, I will. It's the greatest part about it for me, outside of just the show and being a part of it, because I am honored to be a part of it, man. It's a big deal, to be chosen to do it, and I have to compete. It's being humble to a point where I want to understand and learn more to be a better representative of tattooing. So that's why I'm taking these classes. So it's like it's pushed me in that place to where I'm finding a new me,
right,
and doing things that I normally wouldn't do,
right.
But I think it's a good thing, because even lettering, dude, I don't do a lot of lettering. We all know BJ. I've taken BJ's seminar.
Oh, dude, I went down to just to get my knuckles tattooed by him, because I mean, I first of all, the BJ's are super
BJ
nice
did
guy.
my knuckles too.
Yeah,
he did them on
nice
Alley Ink one time.
Yeah,
after the
nice.
thing. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
But he's a super nice guy, and he's incredibly talented with what he does. So it's
He's
like,
amazing.
of course, you go find the best person who does that kind of stuff.
And so I've been dabbling with it. I've been doing lettering and messing around and just drawing it, because I find it. Actually, I've come to enjoy it lately. So it's fun, and I'm sure I'll incorporate it in artwork and things that I do.
I think that's smart. I think that anything, especially if you're not set in a particular, I mean, for tattooing, obviously, you're kind of set in the style in which you're known for doing. But when it comes to creating art and everything else, you do want to bring a little something else to the table, because it's just going to help your art stand out that much more. And again, with tattooing, it's the same thing. It's like, how often has somebody done something? I think it was what was his name from? He's originally from Australia, and now he lives in like Greece.
Benjamin Lucas? Yeah.
Dude, when I first started seeing his stuff, I was like, oh, this is cool.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then he started going into that super realism stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And now he's got the crazy lettering stuff that he's doing.
With it, and it's like this new style,
and that's what I mean by bringing in these foreign styles to what you're normally known for doing, and just nailing it and really adding so much more dimension to what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think it's smart what you're doing. I mean,
I just want to learn, man, because if there's some like kid up there that's like, you got to do this lettering challenge like they did last season with James, he had to do it. It's like I need to actually be able to at least pull off something decent and be good at it in a way where it's not embarrassing, so I can at least
you can also feel good about the fact that you know full well in the back of your head, it's like, yeah, I've done that before. It's cool. You're not doing it on
you feel more confident about it.
Yeah, you feel confident about telling somebody that when they pulled the line, they fucking banged it up.
For sure. Or the loops look off or something. At least have some credibility and not just pull some bullshit out of my hat and be like, ah.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, sometimes you have to.
Well, I agree, man. Like there was. I mean, again, the other problem too that I noticed, and I don't know about your show because I haven't seen it in so long, but with us, it's like you have a hard time just keep coming up with different ways of describing stuff. Like, how many times can you say the word saturation?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and again, every word that we use becomes the fucking catchphrase for someone to come into into a shop as a client and be like, oh, man, I got my tattoo here a couple of weeks ago and I don't think it's saturated enough. And you're like, fuck, you just made another. I'm like, when I first started tattooing,
you're like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, when people start talking fine line single needle, it's like, I want that fine line single needle. Now it's a thing, but back 20 years ago,
for sure.
it was technically a thing, but people weren't using it properly.
And how popular is it now? It's everywhere, right?
Exactly.
Fine line?
Exactly.
And where do these guys know where it comes from? Come on, Joe.
And I agree.
I know. I agree. No, but I'm just saying, it's crazy, right?
It's a bitch. Well, the crazy thing is, and this is why it's amazing to me, like what you were saying before about people not knowing where things come from. We're probably at 2 generations now that think fine line is what we're seeing today from Pinterest. And it's like, it's kind of a fucking bummer because I mean, technically, you can say technically it is because realistically, those guys back then would have never done that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now it's like, yeah, you're right. I guess technically it is because that stuff is kind of still around.
Yeah.
How long is this going to be around? I mean, granted, there's a lot of guys out there that I see their stuff and I'm like, oh, that may last the test of time.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
There's a lot of stuff that we see that's just not.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I'm sure I've done half of them out there, you know, like even when I started tattooing, like there was no playbook on this color realistic stuff. And we all know color, you're a color guy like me.
Yeah.
That shit gets fucked. Like I'm actually envious of some of these black and gray guys because, I mean, the honest truth, black and gray is just, it stands the test of time, you know, and,
certainly.
You know, and
Most
color changes in certain skin or
but that's
how you
why,
beat it up.
But that's why I think like when I've seen...
But on you, dude, I mean, this has looked the same for how long?
Exactly. I mean, this was Kapzumski, and this was a guy who at the time I didn't realize until I sat to get tattooed by him because I thought he was a black and gray guy.
Yeah.
But he had done a Sailor Jerry traditional color pinup on a friend of mine, the inside of his arm, Dave Attenito, and I'd seen it like about a couple of months after it had been done, and it was fucking slamming. I was just like, holy shit. I was like, Cap did that? And he's like, yeah. And I was going back down to Georgia to do a guest spot at Dave's shop, and I called the shop up because this is well before. This was back in '97, I think it was. And so things are going. I'm FedExing pictures. You know, there's none of the fucking stuff, the things we have today. And when he got back to me, Bethra got back to me, his wife at the time. She was like, "Yeah, Cap doesn't do color," and I'm like, "No, he does. I've seen the color piece he did on a friend of mine. It's amazing.
For sure.
That's what I want." And so I booked the appointment. I send the pictures, whatever. I get down there. He shows up like an hour and a half late, and everybody is just like, "Oh, Cap's tattooing. You getting that pinup from Cap?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Black and gray, right?" And I'm like, "No, color." And they're like, "Yeah, Cap don't do color." He's like, "Yes, he does." That's all I kept saying. "Yes, he does. Yes, he does."
He does.
So for like an hour and a half, I got people busting chops about he don't do color. He don't do color. He gets in. He starts drawing the fucking stencil, and it's like he's you know making the photocopy, kind of like how you make, you know. And he's just like, "So we're doing this in black and gray, right?" And I'm like, "No, color." I said that in the fucking email. In the letter I wrote you. Yeah. Told your wife over the phone that that's what color. And he goes, "Yeah, man, I don't really do color." I'm like, "You do? Seen it? Don't care." And I didn't expect a realism thing. I wanted his version. It's fucking sick. You know? It's beautiful.
It's crazy.
And he was just like, and then finally it's like we're getting sit down.
Yeah.
And he's getting stencil, getting ready to put the stencil on, and he's just like, "Man, we're doing black and gray, right?" And I'm like, "No, man, color. I will fucking walk out of this shop right now, get in my car, and drive back to fucking Long Island if this tattoo don't get done in color." Yeah. And he's like, "Whoa.
Yeah. We'll handle it.
It's cool, dude. I'll do it in color, man." And he put the stencil on. It's single needle. I think the whole thing was done single needle, 5 round.
Wow.
You know, and
I remember seeing that when I first met you.
Yeah, dude.
I remember
this
it being
changed
like
the way I tattoo.
That's awesome.
And that's why I think it's important that people need to get tattooed by other people. But
for sure.
But it was one of those situations where, at the end of it, he literally looked at me. He goes, "Man, I want to thank you for making me do that in color because." I would have. That's something I would have never thought to do. Yeah. But my point before was he used to be a color artist. He used to be a fucking traditional guy on the West Coast here, and he did nothing but do 9 rounds and fucking and 6 flats and fucking hammering through stuff. And he knows he had it. Yeah. And it was one of those things where I'm like, that's what I want from that guy. Yeah. I didn't get black and gray, so I didn't want a black and gray tattoo. Yeah. But that's the thing, just someone who knows what they're fucking doing, and they're a fucking great tattooer.
That's awesome that you pushed him to do it, and he did it.
And again, it wasn't because at that time, I mean, I was always who I am. And I'd only been tattooing at that time, I think 4 years.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
How many years are you in now, Joe?
This actually February is 32 years.
Wow, crazy! Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
That's badass.
Thank you.
Crazy.
And I feel every fucking second of it.
Yeah.
Oh, it is tiring, man. Like I said, between just getting older and dealing with shit, it's more difficult than it ever has been. But I still have nothing but fucking love for this business, and I want to keep. Like I said, I want to do this as long as I possibly can.
I think you will. I mean, that's what I want to feel too, man.
I'm looking for wood to
fucking my head.
I was gonna say, right?
No, fuck, man. But no, I mean, yeah, dude, it's been a crazy wild ride, man. Just
most certainly, yeah.
I remember I met you. The first time I ever seen you in person was at Detroit. It was Motor City.
To be honest with you, that's the first thing I remember because I think that Batman that you had done had just hit the scene. Yeah.
And I was there with Fred, this other guy that had some work on his leg.
And I remember going up to your booth. I also met Jeff Gogwe that same weekend.
Oh, yeah. That's the same weekend I met Jeff, too.
At the time, I think you guys had made such an impact on the well, Jeff not as, I think your impact was maybe quicker. I don't know.
It was different, but we definitely at the same time, because that's why me and Jeff ended up becoming really good friends at that time, because we both were kind of in that same place and we were doing the same things.
Yeah, what I loved about Jeff's work, I just love the illustrative feel.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Like the pinup illustrative feel of the time. The stuff he's doing now is a little bit different and not as much my cup of tea, obviously. But back then, what really blew my mind was his stuff had a 70s kind of illustrative feel to me, and I fucking adored that. I thought it was amazing.
He was doing something completely different back then. It was like things you've seen but slightly skewed.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It was almost like a painterly feel, but but grounded in tattooing.
And that was the thing too. He was a painter, so it was like he was doing these oil paintings that were a little different than everyone else's. He was creating like these three-dimensional dragons.
I would go as far as to say that was like probably the beginning of that kind of stuff. I mean, I think Sean Barber, when he came into the scene,
same
with
kind
what
of
he
time,
does, I think that he brought his own mark to it. You know what I mean? Like when I first met Sean, I didn't even know he was learning to apprentice. You know what I mean? And I was genuinely impressed by that. Like it's those things. It's not the overall like being hit in the face by just incredible talent. Because if that was the case today, you'd be in a coma for the amount of talent that's coming.
For sure. I mean, there's so much talent now and so many amazing tattooers.
Yeah.
You don't remember the name.
Exactly.
I mean, dude, there's some people's work that I could look at and it's like they're the same two people.
Right.
It's like, dude, it's got the same reds. Exactly. It's got the same lighting.
Which is why
it's kind of crazy to me.
That's why I say it's the little things that stand out to me that make, and Jeff was one of those things. With your stuff, it was obviously the color realism and the fact that at that time it was kind of being done, but not to that level of quality and realism.
I didn't even know what I was doing, bro. To be honest, it was just like, I think I was just inspired by, like you guys, dude. Like you were doing color, and it was Gunner and Jimmy Litwalk and these guys and Guy, and then it was like the Jack Rudies and Corey Millers here in California doing this realism, and it was just me and my buddies that I worked with just saying like, wow, let's try this in color. We didn't even think about it, but we were also, I remember Boris and Stefan Chodazeg. I'd look at their websites all the time, dude, and I was inspired by their realism that they were doing. So we were just trying to do some cool
and it's
shit.
funny too, because it was such a double-edged sword, man. Because there were so many times you'd look at somebody's stuff and you'd be like, "Oh my god, that's amazing," and then you'd look at somebody else's stuff and be like, "Dude, that thing is gonna look like dog shit in like no fucking time." And so it's hard to not. I think that's why I think that a lot of older tattooers, do kind of toe the line on you shouldn't do it because of this. You know what I mean? And that's why you do have to step back from certain things and be like, oh no, that's going to last. That's going to hold up.
I say, man, the old school tattooers have it right. They know what they're doing. It is the meat and potatoes, and you do need those darks, and it is what it is. You need that foundation.
Well,
and they got it.
What I would love to know from you is your thoughts on, with everything that's being done today, with the styles of work that are coming down the pipe, and how dramatically, how differently things are going to age. How do you think that the clients of today are just being groomed, and that's a weird word to use, but I think it's correct. They're being groomed to know that certain tattoos are not going to look the same in 10, 15 years as like a traditional old school tattoo.
I mean, I don't even know if they know that or not. I just think that what's happening with tattooers that I see is they're trying to get as much work done in one session, 2 days, 3 days, but you never see that tattoo again.
That's
another hard thing, dude. Yeah. And how do you compete in a world? And that's fine. Like it's not negative. It's just hard to. What I tell clients that are collectors, right, is I say, go to the person's page and look for the healed work. Go to their tag page, look for the healed work. Yeah. The healed work somewhere. Like, their Instagram is amazing, or their TikTok or whatever they have, amazing. But it's curated with every fresh tattoo they've done.
Yeah.
And, dude, you know the truth. Like, you want to see that tattoo at least healed a month later.
Right.
Or when you can. To see what it looks like. I've seen many tattoos, even recently. There's a person that does a really amazing realism tattoos. I've never met them, but we share a client. And, they did a 2-day tattoo. They did 20 hours on a tattoo about this big. And, I mean, the guy that I tattooed was super bummed on it because it healed crazy. And he said, dude, they spent like 3 hours on just the lips. And it was just
crazy in the sense that he'll
it
good
just
or
fell
poorly.
out. All of it fell out. And I know
Well, dude,
from
we've
doing
had
it too, because my shit in the beginning did the same.
We've had conversations about individuals in our trade where you were just like, you came up and just like, yeah, dude, no, that shit, that's all Mickey Mouse bullshit, dude, you know?
And I do believe they can hit it and they can do home runs once in a while. I just think that a lot of people aren't used to tattooing this California sun beaten skin, and they're trying to pull off the same type of stuff that is something like you have to adjust from your skin to my skin to someone else's.
Well,
there's an adjustment in tattooing.
And that's exactly what I was
And that's
gonna
experience, you know?
And that's
so it's not
exactly,
cutting anyone down. It's just, you know.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. How many people do you think that you've seen the work where you simply go, yeah, they just don't know that they can't approach this tattoo the exact same way that they would approach any other tattoo because of that person's skin.
Yeah.
And you can see it on them. Yeah. Like, dude, I had a client recently. He's got another guy, and he's got a lot of whites in the tattoo.
Okay.
And I know for a fact that a lot of black and gray tattooers nowadays rely on the white highlights at the end.
Yep.
But I always look at stuff. It's like you'll sit back from the client, and you'll go, all right, what other colors has this guy got on him? He's okay. Yellow's
exactly
not good.
The yellow looks bad.
Exactly.
You can't see it.
So I have to do a tattoo on this person. The first thing I do is I'm not putting white in this tattoo.
Exactly.
Or if I do put it white in, it's gonna get hammered.
You let them know
2 or 3 key areas, and I did. I told him, I'm like, listen, dude, here's the reason why I'm not doing it that way.
Yep.
I'll do my own thing, but most of my highlights rely on skin breaks, you know, as opposed to me packing white into something.
For sure.
But I think a lot of tattooers, especially the younger ones, they just simply don't know.
Yep.
And I honestly believe that a lot of them maybe ain't listening, or there's a bit of an ego, or there's just a bit of for lack of a better word, fucking ignorance.
Yeah, most likely, man. I mean, I think it's crazy. I mean, I guess we all go through those trials and tribulations trying to learn what we're doing, because I definitely did. It's just crazy to me sometimes when there's a major facade and, these artists aren't putting out anything healed ever. I want to see healed tattoos once in a while. At least one every 100.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
That's even simple.
That's why I love posting pictures of stuff and the older the better, dude.
Yep.
There's that fucking sweet spot where, especially for my work in particular, where it's settled in the skin. It's solid as a motherfucker. It looks great.
Yep.
And then there's that time where you can see where, okay, my yellows are gone.
Yep.
Certain pigments over the years that I used, like whether it be powders that I mixed, or like New World colors from Danny Fowler from way back in the day where fucking blue just disappeared.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's great to see that and know that, oh, here's why this is this.
Yep.
And I've had people go, oh, that guy had that reshaded, and it's a tattoo that was like, I don't know, fucking literally 18, 19 years old. I posted. And they're like, oh, what do you have that redone, all that black? And I'm like, no, dude, that's what happens. Like, certain colors are just gonna
go away.
Continue to grow. No, this one got darker.
Oh, it got darker.
Yeah,
like
my dark greens got fucking got really
crazy.
dark. But because it had black underneath, black behind it, so you have that stuff grow.
Yeah.
So you try to explain to people, it's like, yeah, dude, things change, man. Like nothing is ever going to be in the skin the way it was when you first put in.
And I mean, dude, I don't even think we notice it, because if the tattoos are on us, we see them every day, so we don't really see how much it changes until someone else looks at it that's seen it a long time ago, right?
Yeah, when I look at old pictures of my arms, like...
Your arms look crazy, though. You hold color crazy.
Well, it's funny, because I don't do anything. I don't go outside. I don't have a lot of hair on my arms.
We live in Connecticut, bro.
Yeah, exactly. What is that, dude? We lose half a year.
It's like no sun over there, bro. It's a perfect tattoo skin. It's the best.
Anything in particular that you definitely want to touch on that you want to definitely get out there?
I just want to say, man, I'm really excited to see your podcast grow. And
I appreciate that.
And I'm honored to be on here, Joe. I want everyone to know, there's certain tattooers that I really looked up to, and Jack Rudy was one of those people. I want to say rest in peace to Jack, and to his family and his shop and everybody. My heart goes out to you guys for your loss. And I'm, like I said the story earlier, supporting tattooers. I will say I regret not getting a skull from Jack. Yeah. I wanted a Jack Rudy skull.
It is that is one of those things, man. Like, when you think back on a lot of the people that you could have had the opportunity to get from, and it just, because with tattooers, I think we're notorious for living in the fucking moment, and there's always tomorrow.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna get tattooed by you, Joe. I'm not gonna force you to do it today. I'm gonna get tattooed by you. We're gonna book the appointment. Tony Rommel was doing his thing that he was talking about
Yeah, he's
earlier.
talking about doing
so
that,
since
yeah.
I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna schedule 2 days prior, and then I'll come out and get
Yeah,
tattooed
sure,
by
man.
you.
You've got a place to crash. You're more than welcome, man. I'd love to have you.
Boris is somebody I'm gonna get tattooed by, and Corey Miller, and these are people
And dude,
that I've looked
Corey,
up to.
you know, shit, Corey's not too far from
I'm
you,
gonna
dude.
just show up down there, dude,
I was
because
gonna
I
say.
had made an appointment and I didn't get it. I canceled, and I regret it, and I'm gonna do it because Corey's always been somebody that he's always treated me so. You know my career.
Corey's
you know
that
my
guy.
career.
Honestly, dude, Corey's
Yeah.
that guy,
He's a
man.
good dude.
He's just a super nice guy.
Yeah, I love the guy.
He's a mad fucking stoner. I forgot how fucking stoned the guy was half the time. It was amazing.
Dude.
It was fun. No offense, Corey.
Yeah.
But fuck, you gotta
Yeah.
pump the brakes, motherfucker.
But I'll say, man, growing up in Hesperia and tattooing up there, and Corey being the closest, there was two guys. This guy Big Ed that was in the town up there that nobody will ever know, amazing, but learned from Jack. Had 2 full sleeves from Jack
Nice.
that were amazing. They were 18 years old then. That guy I looked up to a lot, and then Corey Miller was right there, dude. So it was like I seen nothing but his work, and yeah, dude, I just got to be honest. Like even the LA Ink stuff we were talking about earlier, he's the guy that called me. So I want to put that on the record. You know, thank you, Corey, for everything you've done in my career because I really look up to guys like you, and I look up to you, man. And you, Joe.
Oh, I appreciate
when I
that.
met you in Detroit, you know, we've become friends, and you're one of the only people that reach out to me sometimes, and I just say thank you.
I try to keep
You know?
in touch with people, man. I mean, that's something only for no other reason than like, again, man, it's easy to understand how something like this past weekend where Jack
Yeah.
passed away, or last weekend, you know, where I'm really happy to have got to see him back in October.
Yeah.
He invited me to the party.
Yeah.
I put it in my schedule. I almost didn't come, and then the more and more I thought about it, I'm like, dude, you know, it's Jack, dude. Like, and you got an invitation. Like, how are you not going to go? And I was like, you know what? I got a lot of friends out there. I haven't seen motherfuckers for forever. I'm going to take advantage of it. And and again, I'm fortunate and unfortunate enough that I'm not busy enough I can take the time off and I can come out here and I can take advantage of it.
Dude.
And I think that's an important thing.
And thank you for taking the time to see me, man. You know, I missed you, and I'm really happy to be here, dude. So give me a hug.
Oh, fuck off.
Come on.
dude.
And the other day, you know, when I was telling Joe, this is another story too, real quick before we go. I was giving Joe credit, and he was like, I don't want to fucking hear this shit, but I'm always gonna tell you, dude, because you need to know what you did for tattooing.
I mean-
and I know you know, but I just always want to give you the credit because you're somebody that set the bar so far, and you created artwork outside of tattooing.
Yeah.
Looking at all that stuff, amazing.
It's funny you say that because, like, I mean, I haven't created physical. I haven't worked on a physical medium in entirely too long, and having been out here this past week, I was like, no, you're gonna go home. You're gonna. I started buying some supplies before I left, and Rodney Raines was somebody a couple of weeks ago, or not even. Actually, it's been about 2 months now, where he was like, here's the deal, man. If you want me to do your podcast. He's like, we're going to sit down and do something, and we're going to set the fucking cameras up, and you can ask me whatever fucking question you want, but you're going to have a pencil, paintbrush, or fucking airbrush in your fucking hand, and we're going to create something, not together, just, you know, we're just going to do our thing, nothing crazy, but he's like, I'm not going to let you just sit there. He's like, because when I came into this business, you were airbrushing, you were painting, you did all this different stuff that I looked up to and inspired me to do this, that, and the other thing, and I don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And so he's calling me out as being a fucking, you know, a dumbass who just...
I mean, you're that guy, dude.
Yeah,
I remember
but
going to
listen,
your shop, Hope Gallery, and
yeah,
seeing it all, dude.
yeah.
I remember going out there.
It's tough. I mean, like I said, I think the biggest issue right now is just getting over the hump of how much things have changed in me, like physically and whatnot. And I got to, you know, I just have to... I mean, the fact of the matter is I know full well nothing happens in this world until you fucking do it. And in a sense, I'd say... we are masters of our own fucking destiny, dude. Like, if you want to be great at something, you fucking get great at something. You know what I mean? So. And
you're gonna remember something you forgot. As soon as you make something that's like tangible,
oh yeah, I know.
You're gonna be like, oh shit.
Yeah, because I forgot a lot.
No. I'm saying forget
I know.
like that soul, that love, you know, because there's times I don't want to do shit and I don't want to make shit, and then digital's so hard because it's amazing and it's a tool definitely you need to learn, but it's not the same.
No, it's totally not. I mean, I had a big argument with somebody on the Honest Tattoo, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Where Matt was like, he's just like talking about a painting, and he's like, I'm going to do one a month this year. And I go, physical or digital? He goes, oh, digital. And I'm like, oh, it's not painting, my friend.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, dude, it started this huge fucking row. Like, it blew the fuck up online. And I've come to the realization that unless somebody is reaching out to me directly on some kind of social media thing, I read everything because I can't help myself, but I just ignore it. I just don't, unless it's somebody I know or whatever, I'll give it a heart or a response. But I let people have it, and they can speak whatever shit they want. I don't care.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Fucking Matt, he went down that rabbit. Every person who called his ass out was just like, he felt the need to fucking respond.
Funny.
He said he posted fucking video of paintings he had done. I paint, but I just don't do it now, and it's still a painting. It was just fucking hilarious.
That's awesome.
But I think that's the fun. I think that's the joy of like the world we live in now, because you could argue about just about fucking anything, and everybody's going to feel they're fucking right. So
I mean, I did my first digital painting drawing the other day, and you know what's funny is I didn't even use any of the shortcuts. I actually drew everything like a sketch, and it was really fun. But when I printed it out, it wasn't as rewarding as having like that finished piece that you can hold. You know?
The best thing about the digital thing for certain things like Flash and stuff like that is the fact that it's easy to go to print with, which is part of the reason that I do it, and it kind of encompassed a lot. But there is something to be said for a physical painting. And again, the ones that are on my wall, like I don't collect prints anymore.
Yeah.
Like if I can't get the original from a person, then I'm not getting a piece from that
for
person,
sure.
you
Of
know?
course.
And that's a shame, you know, because there's a lot of really talented people out there, and I can't afford that much. So.
Hey, you ever want to trade a piece? Let me know, dude. I'll trade you something.
I'll bring it. I owe. There's two people I owe paintings that
Yeah.
I've talked about trading with. So
let me know.
It'll happen.
Let me know.
Like I said, working with Christian has been.
Dude, that guy's a monster.
He's crazy.
Wow.
And working with him has been, it's a blessing and a curse, because he's nonstop. He's always on. He's always doing something.
Yeah.
He just got into this poser program, this like digital poser program. So now he's using that to set up reference for anatomy stuff.
Awesome.
And he's just started another painting, and he's just crushing it, dude.
That's good, man.
Crushing it.
Well, dude, I can't wait to see who else you get on this podcast.
Same here, man.
Thank you for having me on.
No problem.
Dude.
Thank you very much.
And not for nothing, this was the shit.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for sitting in on another episode. I really appreciate it. I'm here at Nikko's Black Anchor. This will be airing in a couple of... Well, it doesn't matter because you're not going to hear this part of it. But again, thanks for everything. Like and subscribe. I'm going to put all of Nikko's pertinent information in the description. And see you when I see you.